The presentation or how we're going to walk through this is we're going to talk a little bit about the application, inventory, and labor scheduling. I'm going to show you a presentation. We're going to come back to the PowerPoint, show you a little bit more on the opportunities and the ROI that we've experienced with our customers. Finally, we'll talk after we get through the application about implementation. So that's going to be kind of the style we're going to run today during the webinar. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we wanted to present to you is a little bit about how we see ourselves and how we think we help restaurants operate. And this slide really shows, or for us, it brings forth some ideas or some things that you may have to deal with on a daily basis. And that is each one of these boxes in a lot of concepts represents an Excel spreadsheet. And those Excel spreadsheets are typically how a lot of operators run their business. From what we've learned working with a lot of operators from Del Frisco's to Dairy Queens is that many of you are probably Excel masters. You probably could teach an Excel spreadsheet class. So what we've learned is, gosh, what if we could help eliminate those Excel spreadsheets? What if we could change the way you operate to make it more efficient, to make it more of a shared and collaborative operational process? Because let's face it, the restaurant industry is extremely unique. It's one of the only industries where you have to take in raw materials, produce it in a back, in the back, and then resell it in the front. The Ford Motor Company doesn't do that. They create raw materials, they bring in raw materials, they create a product, and then it's resold somewhere else. So if there's a way to streamline those operations in the back and the front with your service and your raw materials, hey, maybe there's something to that. So that's what we want to talk about today, and hopefully you can see how maybe we've helped some of our customers improve on that manufacturing and service process by eliminating a lot of extraneous tasks that might complicate that production cycle. So like, one of the things we bring to the table again is taking those spreadsheets, reducing them, and frankly kind of bundling them into this one solution. Somebody, one of our customers said, well, gosh, maybe you should call your company WhenToManage. And that was, of course, a nice comment. But this solution itself is SaaS-based. So that includes our support team, insofar as that they're very well versed in the SaaS model or software as a service, as well as our solutions. So we have a consultation team as well as services that we offer. And we think our difference, again, is that we've bundled all this into one application. So the first application we're going to talk about today is going to be our inventory management solution. And I'm going to cover some of the key components, for example, invoices and ordering, physical counts, a little bit on recipe management, a little bit on the vendor order guide, and reporting. We're going to keep reporting to a minimum because there's a lot of customized reports that we can offer for inventory management, so we'll keep that to a minimum today. I'm going to switch screens here, and I'm going to go to the demonstration. You're actually going to see our product. So it should be on your screen at this point. And what you're seeing right now is the application loaded into a Chrome browser, works on Firefox, Internet Explorer, but you're seeing this as though I were a manager. So I've logged in at my location, which is Ann Arbor #1. There can be multiple locations that are, of course, under a hierarchy, but this is the manager for Ann Arbor #1 today. And as a manager, I'm going to have to go through a few tasks. One task that I might go through is adding an order and sending that order to my vendor for processing. I might actually take in an invoice from an integration that we have with a supplier, or manually because I work with perhaps a local farmer or a liquor provider. I might track some waste. I might also go through and count some, or create some production events like batch recipes or butcher events. I might transfer product from one store to another. And finally, my physical counts. So let's walk through some of these, and let's pretend that we're a manager operating and controlling our invoice, our inventory today. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take an invoice. Let's assume we've either called up one of our local providers, or we've maybe gone to eSysco.com or another supplier's website and made an order. As you can see, there's an import option available, and if there's ever an issue with an import, we will certainly notify you with one of these color codes here that says, well, you need to follow up on this one invoice. Here we have an unbalanced invoice, so, and you can see that these are actually highlighted in yellow. So if there's an unbalanced invoice, such as we've allocated $500 on the invoice and only $200 is accounted for, well, we need to follow up there as well. But in this particular circumstance, we're going to assume that we've just bought some product from a local farmer and perhaps even a small boutique vendor. I'm going to add that invoice here. I'm going to start by clicking the button, and I'm going to choose a variety of purveyors that we have in the system. Now, WhenToManage has already gone in and settled this up for you. There's also a self-service option that you can also deploy. You've added in your recipes. You've also added in the items that you purchased from your supplier. So in this case, we're going to click on Mains as one of our providers, but you can see there's many different types here. We'll click on Mains, and we're going to click on Go. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to start off by entering the invoice totals. If this were in the integration with the provider, this would already be here, as well as the other elements added. So we're going to the manual process here. I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to enter in the invoice number. Now we can design the invoice to include only the sections that are required. For example, if this manager is not supposed to be paying for any food that they've received, that can be eliminated. If you pay by check, or maybe you have a bunch of credits, that's certainly a possibility as well. My next task is to click on the vendor products. Now let's say every Wednesday we do a meat order. So I'm going to expand this section here, and I'm going to receive the quantity that's been dropped off at the back of the location and actually pulled into the store, which, and of course, it was in good standing order. We received 4 cases of beef hot dogs. We received 1 case of beef patties, and we received 1 case of chicken tenderloins. Now, we notice here that this was the last purchase price paid. Now, we're a FIFO system, first in, first out model. So we're not average price paid or a LIFO. We're a true FIFO system. So it's going to be a very exact food price. Now, we notice here that the price has gone up, and it's $39. Now, we can, with the report, naturally, you're going to see this fluctuation over time. So you can see, gosh, how much are these people charging me every week, every month, every quarter? This is crazy. I can't afford to run a business with these increasing charges. We'll continue our order with ordering one more case, and when we're happy, we can create an invoice, or if we want to, we can scan it and attach it. At this point, if I'm happy with my order, I'll go ahead and create it. And we started the initial process of inserting an invoice into the system. Naturally, you can download these as a CSV if you'd like to and upload those into another system for full accountability. Now, you might have caught something when I created this invoice, and that was we actually were out of balance. So the invoice was $500. Note that was not what we received. So at the end of the closing week, which is here, this button, I'm responsible as the manager to close out and become accountable for every bit of product that I've added into the location. And I'm also, of course, allocating that, geez, this price was exactly what I paid. Everything was in good standing order, so I'm, again, accountable. Now, your closing week can be set up as required by the location or by the enterprise, so it's certainly something you can do. If the manager needs you to reopen a week, well, you can do that as an enterprise user as well. The next task I might do is account for waste. A lot of our customers will do this behind the bar. So, for example, if a bartender drops a bunch of product or spills something, or maybe even the kitchen manager brings in some inventory and then it just gets run over or something like that. Whatever the case may be, I can declare my waste by printing out a waste worksheet, handing that over to my staff to complete it, or I can log in here and just declare the waste immediately. I'm going to click on Declare Waste, and I'm going to go ahead and add my waste event. Now let's go ahead and say on the meat side, we did accidentally had a little bit of a waste here, and I'm going to say with our tenderloins, again, we had another bit of a waste. We can also choose bar mixes, which is sometimes seem to fall off the shelf a lot. We wasted 2 here and 1 here. I'm going to go ahead and create this event, and now what we've done, of course, every bit of buttons that you push in the application, we can actually track that and see what's our waste look like. Are we wasting a lot of product? Because if we're wasting it, I want to know because frankly, I don't want to keep ordering it all the time. Next is production events. If you're a steakhouse, this is something you'll probably want to use. If you create your own sauces or have pre-made sandwiches or salads or soups, this is a great feature. There are two options in managing your production cycle. One is here, the other we'll talk about in a moment. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a prep event. And in this prep event, we've created a batch recipe. The batch recipe was naturally created on the back end, just like all your recipes are, connected naturally to the point of sale. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But here, we're asking Becky Robinson to create one batch of soup. Now, when we create this batch, just like I mentioned with the recipe management system, we're actually notifying the system that in this soup, packets of pasta, or excuse me, 5 ounces of chicken used, or how many ounces, 5 packets of pasta, some sauce, or some spices, some broth, all that was used in the recipe. And I'm saying, as the prep cook, that this was actually created, and I put it into production. I'm going to go ahead and create this event, and now we can, at this point, track yield. The same would go with a butcher event. If you're cutting your own meat or filleting your own fish, the same thing can occur. So I have a starting quantity off my tenderloins of 5 pounds, and then I'm going to go ahead and convert whatever is needed here. Now, eventually what I'll do is get to controlling my yields and being able to track those yields based on sales. And then if I'm not getting the yields I expected off this very expensive meat product, I can talk to Max Travis and say, listen, our goals are 76% yield. You're only getting to about 70%. So that 6% is about $50 that we're not actually using, and we could be making about $200 on it, considering our sales. So Max, we're going to put you through some more training programs. I'm going to create this event, and we've just tracked our butchering process, or butcher event. Now, I mentioned earlier that there's another methodology here, and we can actually make an assumption of creation on all your batch recipes. So if you don't want to use this feature, we'll actually implement it for you, create your batch recipes, track yield just like you see here before, but it'll be more automated. It's a little more precise because you're actually saying this was produced versus we'll make an assumption. The next task a manager might do, especially in the multi-store environment, is transfer product from one location to another. Now you can see here, Walker Thompson has done a lot of transferring, but there hasn't been a lot of receiving. So frankly, we might need to talk to Walker about his transfer problem. But this application, or this feature, its goal is to eliminate phantom inventory. So as a manager, if you don't have this system, a lot of transferring might happen, yet you're not accounted for it. So people scratch their head, where did that case of Coke go? Or where did this meat go? Or where did that case of cheese go? So this will control the transfer process by selecting the location, Ann Arbor number 2. I'll click on transfer. And next, I'm going to transfer the product. Now, what it's doing is it's saying, based on the last purchase price that you've received at the location, we're going to transfer that value over to Ann Arbor number 2's balance sheet. So I'm, again, transferring this value to Ann Arbor number 2. I'm going to click on frozen, and we're going to transfer these products over. Now, again, Ann Arbor number 2, the manager there still needs to approve the transfer. And until that happens, it's still on my balance sheet. It's still assumed to be in my location. So I've created this transfer. I sent it over to Ann Arbor number 2, and we're good to go. The last and probably most critical step in any inventory system is going to be your physical counts. As you can see here, we have several count options. It can be a daily, weekly, monthly counts. It's kind of up to you. And in the enterprise setup, you can design the count sheets to be per location. So for example, if I have one location that has 1,500 square feet, well, their storage opportunities are going to be much different than a place that's 3,000 or 10,000 square feet for that matter. So each count sheet can be designed by location. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open up this weekly count. This is what we've started so far as a manager. I'm going to click on line, and I can continue the count process here. So I'm going to add in these cuts. I might go to the beer cooler and add in 5 cases of Bud Light, 2 bottles of Budweiser left. Probably need to make an order here. And when I'm happy, I can go ahead and update my count. Now, my count sheet can also be designed, again, not kind of only counting the items that you want for that week or that day or that month. So not every item has to be counted. It's up to you to tell us what you want in the consultation process. So I'm going to update my count because I know I'm going to come back to it a little bit later today to follow up and complete it. So as a manager using this FIFO system, what I've just done is brought in inventory. I've accounted for any price changes. I've noted that we've converted some of the product that we've received into usable items that can be made for resale. We've transferred product from one store to another, and we started completing our physical inventory. Now, the result of all of this is what? Let's go to our dashboard here and see what we can actually do from the reporting side. If you've ever used an inventory process or perhaps even inventory system, you're going to get a report that looks something like this, or at least that's the goal. Now, most of you seeing these categories will make an Excel spreadsheet that has, okay, what's the unit of measure? How many did we start with? How much did we purchase lately? If you do track conversions, great. Have we wasted any? What's available? A lot of this right here you'll have in your Excel spreadsheet. However, the real cool part of this is the ideal usage and actual usage. So you're getting a theoretical analysis on what you've sold, which is ideal usage, coming from our recipe system and the point of sale based on sales, versus what you've actually used. And if any of you know, the goal with any inventory system and anytime you track inventory is to account for what we've sold versus what's missing from the shelf, or what we call variance. The more you control your variance, the more you're going to control your food costs. Now, this report's got a lot of numbers and a lot of different colors in it. We actually try to alert you to certain things. Blue indicates the initial purchase price. The yellow is indicating that you've actually grown product in-house, so you might want to look at your counting process. But you can also do this. From your home office, in your Smurf pajamas, you can click on American cheese and figure out, or at least get closer to figuring out, why the variance. I'm going to click on this link here, and what I'm going to do is see a little more raw details on this product. I'm going to expand this a little bit. So here we have an overview. You can see that we have our beginning count was 8. You can see that we've converted some of the product in a batch recipe. That was actually that minestrone soup. We've actually ordered this much from our supplier, and we've actually used, or we can see here, we might have a problem with our counting process. So from 7:30 to 8:05, that was last week, we started with 8, we ordered 8 more, but we didn't count what we had left. That might be the problem. So someone didn't actually complete their count for the week. So what we assumed, perhaps, is that we had 8 to start. We always order 8. So now we're double what we need because we only used 2.45 packs. So we just spent an excess of $132 that we didn't need to spend. Imagine if you had that kind of control in your operation. There's a great website called restaurantowner.com. Jim Lobb is the editor and founder. He said in a presentation, the restaurant industry is not a nickel and dime, it's nickel and penny. So the more you control these food costs, the more profit you're going to make, and of course that profit might go to financing your new portion. Inside of the system, you can also look again for the orders. You can look at that production cycle. So there was that minestrone soup. You can see what has been wasted. You can see the recipes that this item is used in, and finally back to those counts. You can see here we have a FIFO valuation for the last week, but we don't have one for the week before or the week after. Or sorry, August 5th. And that FIFO valuation is going to tell you how well did I leverage the product. So again, this system is designed to institute a new process of how you work with inventory and how you account for food and how you make your managers more accountable. In our experience, customers have started with an inventory system based on Excel spreadsheets with limited data, and the manager users, once they've gone from that system to a system like this, they spend about an hour in the back office, and that's about it, managing inventory. We go through a training implementation cycle. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. But it's a very easy way to get started managing your inventory. And again, we have Dairy Queen users. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint deck here just to talk a little bit more, kind of recap what we just done. The opportunity here ultimately is to save you on your cost of goods sold. Now, some of our customers have experienced the cost of goods sold drop by 1 to 4%. Now, that's going to vary based on your activity with the system, how well you've implemented the system, and what you're tracking. But if all things stay kind of equal, you should expect a lowering of your cost of goods sold. That's our goal working with you. Now, to some of you, you're going to have to sit back and ask, what's a point worth? If a point is worth $10,000 a month, then that ROI is probably about 10,000%. So there's a strong reason to look at an inventory management system, any for that matter, in using in managing your inventory. I thought for just a quick moment that I would open up this poll, and when I launch the poll, it'll come up on your screen here, and maybe you take a couple of minutes just to ask or just ask this question, what you think about on your inventory. So I'm going to launch the poll. Maybe if you wouldn't mind just taking a couple minutes and answering those questions on the poll. We'll get right back into the presentation. And I should say, while you're voting, we're going to share these results so you can see what people are, how they're answering. Some good activity here. Thank you very much. We got about 52% voted so far. That's great. Give about 15 more seconds, and then we'll close the poll and share the results. Okay, I'm going to close the poll, and I'm going to go ahead and share these results. You should be seeing those on your screen. They should be coming through to you. So it looks like physical counts. Interesting. That's one of the biggest issues, the biggest hassles with inventory. You can do a lot of your physical counts on a tablet device here, so that might also make the system easier to complete those physical counts. Great. Thank you very much for completing that poll. Let's go ahead and get into the next part of the presentation here, and that's going to be on labor scheduling. So what we're going to talk about today is how labor scheduling, the interface, and how it works and how you can create a schedule, some of the manager tools, and a little bit on the employee side as well. So we'll get right back into the system here. We're again back into the dashboard that we saw earlier. I'm going to click on the labor tab. Now, as a former user of WhenToManage, I thought this was a killer app for me. My labor costs were pretty high. Only in Colorado, and only in Colorado can you launch and maintain and make a little bit of money on a coffee shop and a climbing gym. So my staff was very expensive because they were certified climbing instructors as well as baristas. Imagine putting that on your resume. So I used this app, and I was able to manage my staff mostly from home using this system, or let's just say that I was able to reduce about an hour, 2 hours a week of my time. Now, like you, I had another job or I was busy doing other stuff, so I really needed a way to save a little bit of time. And I was able to schedule and publish and manage a lot of my workforce, in my man cave in my Smurf pajamas. So it was great. So what you're seeing here on the screen is going to be one version of the scheduling interface. You can see that I've got it organized by job type. At this point, if I wanted to make an edit to this schedule, great, I can do that. We're going to come back to it though. We're going to also go back to the next screen, which is going to be our roster for the day. So you can see here on this screen who's actually working. Now, the system, the way it's integrated to Halo, will pull over a lot of the employee profile. So the job types, the wage, the clock in and clock out, all that's going to be available to you. And you're going to be able to, again, track how well or how much the staff is costing you, what's your scheduled cost versus your actual cost. In this system here, as a manager, I can see that I might have some workflow that I might need to take care of. For example, I need to take care of publishing these schedules. Right now I have 3. You can have as many as you like. You might have a special event schedule that I need to publish, or again, some one of these. I can see that Shirley Barnes, one of my employees, has asked for an availability adjustment. Now, again, with my Smurf pajamas, I can go ahead and see that she's made this require, she's asked for this availability adjustment. She's asked from 12 a.m. all the way to 7:30 p.m. that she can't work because she has a computer class. So at this point, knowing Shirley, she's one of my best, I'm going to go ahead and approve that. Now, if you managed a lot of, or created a lot of schedules, you realize how much time you just saved doing that. There's no debating, no arguing. She just said, sure, no problem. I can also hear additional workflow tasks might be that I want to log the attendance. So if we have a no-show or a late or a sick or something like that, you can create the attendance logging as you see fit. When I'm happy with some of my workflow tasks, I come back to the schedule here. And what's going to show me is the schedule for this week. Now you can see in this interface that we've got a couple of conflicts, some red that's popping out and notifying us of some issues. Let's cover the red first, and we'll talk about the other features because this is important. In the system, you can set up overtime on the corporate level. You can also set up employee time limits. So for example, if Joe is only allowed to work 10 hours a week, I can set that. We do follow some state labor laws. California is one, working on New York and adding others. So that will become a calculation that will tell you, hey, you scheduled this person at so much time. At this point, you're in the overtime status where they're earning 1.5 hour or 1.5 times their normal salary or normal wage. You can see here if you do have someone scheduled in another schedule and there's a conflict, it will also show you that. So let's click on Nancy Smith. I can see that she's in the dining room schedule and the staff schedule, so I need to be mindful of that. I might need to come back and go to my dining room schedule and make an adjustment there. Here below, also, you can see these red lines here. This is one option that you have for our forecasting tool. Now, we've set up the system based on a matrix. That matrix says we do not want to spend more than 15% or 18% based on the expected revenues we're going to earn on that day. Now, if the manager schedules more or spends more on the staff than what we had allocated to them, the system's going to turn red and indicate that number. So right now we're spending 7.12% over this 15% marker that we're allotted, based on the sales forecast that we've created here, also historical. So I'm mindful of this, and I might want to dial back my staff a little bit, or I need to update my forecast as well from the ground level to indicate, well, the reason I did this, the reason I scheduled so high is because Google's coming here for a big party. So we have great forecasting, labor modeling tools that you can use, and at a corporate level, really save a lot of money. And we've been able to demonstrate that again and again. Now, in the real world, what happens? You have a call, again, Google might be calling and saying, gosh, we want to RSVP for a huge party. So in the real world, although this schedule has been published and sent out to the employee base, I might need to make a small adjustment here. And that might mean adding Nancy Smith as a host. So I'm going to click on the plus sign. The system says, well, just letting you know you've already scheduled these people. I'm going to say, yes, I know, but I got to have a host. I don't have a choice. And I'm going to say I need her in about, let's say 4 p.m., and she needs to work until 8 p.m. And I'm going to say Google Party, help. And at this point, if I want to go ahead and continue, I can. Or I can say, you know what, Nancy, go ahead and call me first, and I'll let you know if you actually need to be here. Now I'm going to save this shift here in a moment. There's going to be a small icon that pops up that says, guess what? Nancy typically plays golf on Wednesdays. We know that. So we need to re-notify her and that this new shift has been allocated for her, and we look for her to acknowledge that. So I'm going to click on this icon here. It resends out a text message, an email. You can print out the schedule. It also goes to the employee app. They can also log in from a browser and see that as well. Let's go to the next week and just take a couple minutes and maybe how we actually adjust the schedule. So I click on the button. So this is a schedule that has not been published. So what we might need to do is make some adjustments here. We might need to clear all the shifts out and start all over again, and maybe even just copy last week's schedule in. We might need to fill shifts automatically because we don't know who's available and who's not. We also might need to load a template. Maybe we'll save this as a template because it was such a great schedule. We also can just go in here and say, well, okay, we have a conflict. Let's just move this down here. Maybe edit this shift a little bit if we need to. Say we'll edit it down. Save that one. Let's save that one. Maybe move this one over. Maybe delete this one. Actually, we'll delete this one because there's an availability conflict because we went ahead and improved that availability. Hey, this schedule looks good. Let's go ahead and publish it. Well, 2.76, that's not too bad. We'll go ahead and publish it. So again, once I press publish, I've done scheduling, and it goes out to my staff. When I was using this system, I first started out with, guess what, an Excel spreadsheet. Next, I went to Google Docs. I thought, oh, that'll be cool, like that. Both were failed miserably. When I used this, I was able to schedule my staff in about 3 clicks. It was amazing. So now I published my schedule. I'm happy as a manager, and then I can just make sure everyone comes in on time, or if I need to, I can print this out if I need to. I can also see a nice multi-week view of who's working and kind of get a nice view of my resources. Finally, we go back to the labor scheduling system here. I can see a coverage report. Some managers we found like to use this, so I can see, again, a little bit who's working, when, how much it's going to cost me today, etc. Now I'm going to switch browsers here for one moment, and I'm going to go to the employee view, and you're going to see 2 views of that. Here, excuse me, is the employee browser-based application. Sorry, that was pretty quick, but I went from Chrome, which is here, over to Firefox. So now, as an employee, if I need to, here's my schedule for today. I can see that there are some for pickup. I can see that there's documents I might need to review. I can see, employee contact list. I can change my availability, time off, or I might just easily just give up a shift to somebody. Now, we've got it set up that in this particular case that a manager needs to approve based on profiles. So I'm going to go ahead and pass over this shift to Mark Jenkins. It's still on my schedule until actually Mark has actually completed the pickup process and the manager has approved it. So real easy way for me to kind of manage my schedule from a browser. If I want to, I can also go to the mobile application here. This is a web version of it, so it will stay if you use it on. So if I click on my shifts for today, it's going to load my shifts here. So this is when I'm actually working. You might see a little more detail. I can give up that shift if I need to. I can also see any available shifts that might be for pickup. I can also see all the shifts and who's working. So some nice mobile tools that, again, Nancy might use on the golf course when she gets that shift alert later today for that big Google party. So real easy way. This is included with our labor scheduling application. If you purchase it, any employee just logs in at my.whentomanage.com/m, and they can go right in here and get their shifts and manage their life within the business. So I'm going to go back in here to the PowerPoint deck, and let's talk about a little bit more about what we just covered. One thing that I wanted to position here is in our customer base, we have some large customers that we work with. We also have some small ones. But I just got a note from one of our larger customers, about 250 locations, that we saved 2% on our labor costs in 2011 working with WhenToManage. Now that's 250 locations, so that's a pretty sizable number. Imagine if you could save 2% on your labor costs in 2011. With rising labor costs and food costs connected with this solution, this might be a very powerful application for you. Now, again, like we did before, I'm going to open up another poll. This one is going to be a pretty quick one. The system that we just walked through, what is the most critical component that you want to control? I'm going to launch that poll. We'll keep it open for about a minute here. But is it labor costs or is it food costs? Oh, you can see my fun little joke. What's the biggest one you're worried about in this group here? We'll keep this open for about 30 seconds. Or a minute, sorry. Got about 60% of the people voting. Thank you very much. That's great. Okay, we're going to close the poll here in about 10 seconds. There's very interesting numbers coming through. Okay, I'm going to close the poll, and I'll go ahead and share these results. 8% said my least. Do you have an app for that? Food costs at 49%, labor costs at 43%. Very interesting numbers. Pretty close to what we've experienced in our business as well. That food costs right now, I mean, think about it. In June, meat prices went up by 3.1%, and with corn and gas prices, well, of course, heating oil prices and gas prices will start to rise a little bit, but that impacts food prices. So, 3.1% in June was the highest it's increased this year. That was 1 month highest increase. That's a huge increase in just 1 month. So again, the more we control those food prices or food costs, the better. I'm going to go ahead and close these results.